Today's lesson is on solving inequalities using addition and subtraction. First, we'll look at our key ideas. The addition property of inequality tells us if you add the same number to each side of an inequality, the inequality remains true. So if we have -3 is less than 2, we could add 4 to each side and we'd get 1 is less than 6, and that is true. If we have x minus 3 is greater than -10, we could add 3 to each side and we would get that x is greater than -7, and that is also true. The subtraction property of inequality tells us if you subtract the same number from each side of an inequality, the inequality remains true. So if we have -3 is less than 1, and we subtract 5 from each side, we would get -8 is less than -4, which is true. And if we have x plus 7 is greater than -20, we can subtract 7 from each side, and we would get x is greater than -27, which is true. These properties are also true for less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. For our first example, we're solving an inequality using addition. We're going to solve x minus 6 is greater than or equal to -10, and then we're going to graph the solution. When we solve this inequality, we're going to undo the subtraction, and we'll do that by adding 6 to each side. When we add 6 to the left-hand side, we get x, and when we add 6 to the right-hand side, we have -10 plus 6, which is -4. Then our symbol stays the same, so we'll have x is greater than or equal to -4. Now we need to graph our inequality. Since we have greater than or equal to, we will have a closed circle at -4, and then we will shade to the right because the numbers to the right are greater than -4. We can also check a number on each side to see which way to shade. So if we would check 0, 0 is greater than or equal to -4, would make that a true statement. If we would check -5, we have -5 is greater than or equal to -4, and that is not true. So that will also help you decide which way to shade for your inequality. Now we have an additional example. You can pause the video and try it on your own, or you may follow along. Solve the inequality and graph the solution. So for number 1, we have b minus 2 is greater than -9. So first we'll start with our inequality. b minus 2 is greater than -9. We want to undo the subtraction, so we're going to add 2 to each side. And we're going to get b is greater than -7. So now we're going to graph the solution. So we'll have -7 on our number line, and then to the right we'll have -6 and -5, and then to the left we're going to have -8 and -9. Since we have greater than, we're going to have an open circle at -7. And then we can check a number on each side to see which direction to shade. So if we check -8, we have -8 is greater than -7, and that is not true. So we could check -6. -6 is greater than -7. That is a true statement, so we will shade to the right. Now for number 2, we have m minus 3 8/10 is less than or equal to 5. So we're going to undo the subtraction by adding 3 8/10 to each side. And when we do this, we're going to get m is less than or equal to 8 8/10, so 8.8. Now we can go ahead and graph our inequality. So we'll go ahead and fill out the number line. So we're going to have 8 8/10, and then to the right of that, we're going to have 8 9/10, and then we can have 9. And then to the left of 8 8/10, we could have 8 and 7/10, and then 8 and 6/10. Now at 8 and 8/10, we're going to have a closed circle because we have less than or equal to. And then we need to decide which direction to shade. So we can check a number on each side. So we have 8 and 7/10. So we can check that. 8 and 7/10 is less than or equal to 8 and 8/10. And that is a true statement. If we check a number on the right-hand side, 8 and 9/10, 8 and 9/10 is not less than or equal to 8 and 8/10. So we would shade to the left. And now for number 3, we have 1/4 is greater than y minus 1/4. So we'll first solve our inequality. So we have 1/4 is greater than y minus 1/4. In order to solve this, we're going to undo the subtraction by adding 1/4. One-fourth plus 1/4 is 2/4, which is 1/2. So we have 1/2 is greater than y. We can also rewrite this so we have y first. So when we rewrite it, we're going to have y is less than 1/2. If I want to rewrite it, when I put my variable first, I need to flip this sign around. So now I can graph my inequality. I have y is less than 1/2. So I'll have 1/2 on my number line. And then I can go up by 1/4 each time. So I can say this is 3/4. And then we have 1 whole. And then to the left, I'd have 1/4 and 0. So now I'm going to graph my inequality. My symbol is less than. So I will have an open circle at 1/2. And then I need to decide which direction to shade. If I plug in 1/4, I have 1/4 is less than 1/2, which is a true statement. If I try 3/4, 3/4 is not less than 1/2. So I will shade to the left. Now for my second example, I'm solving an inequality using subtraction. Solve -8 is greater than 1 4/10 plus x. And then we'll graph the solution. So in order to solve this inequality, I'm going to undo the addition. So I'm going to subtract 1 4/10 from each side. When I do this, I get -9 4/10 is greater than x. So my solution is x is less than -9 4/10. Now when I graph my solution, I'm going to have an open circle at -9 4/10 because my symbol is less than. Then I will shade to the left because if I try a number to the left-hand side, I could try -9 5/10. So I have -9 5/10 is less than -9 4/10, and that is a true statement. Now we have an additional example. You can pause the video and try it on your own, or you may follow along. Solve the inequality and graph the solution. So for number 4, I have k plus 5 is less than or equal to -3. I need to undo the addition, so I'm going to subtract 5 on each side. So I will end up with k is less than or equal to, and if I have -3 minus 5, that's going to be -3 plus -5, which is -8. Now I need to fill out my number line, so I'll have -8, and then to the right I'll have -7, and then -6, and then to the left I'll have -9 and -10. Now at -8 I will have a closed circle because my symbol is less than or equal to, and then if I check a number on the left-hand side, so I could check -9, I would have -9 is less than or equal to -8, and that is a true statement, so I will shade to the left. Now for number 5, I have 5/6 is less than or equal to z plus 2/3. So now I'm going to undo the addition by subtracting 2/3 on each side. 5/6 minus 2/3 would be 1/6, because 2/3 is the same thing as 4/6. So I can think of this as being 5/6 minus 4/6, which would be 1/6. So I have 1/6 is less than or equal to z, which I can then rewrite that as z is greater than or equal to 1/6. So now I can fill out my number line. So I'll have 1/6, and then I can just go up by 1/6 each time. So then I'll have 2/6, which you could also write as 1/3, and then I'd have 3/6, which you could write as 1/2. And then to the left, I would have 0, and then I'd have negative 1/6. I will have a closed circle at 1/6 because I have the symbol greater than or equal to. And then if I check in over on the left, I have 0. 0 is greater than or equal to 1/6 is not a true statement. So if I check a number on the right, I have 2/6. 2/6 is greater than or equal to 1/6 is a true statement. So I will shade to the right. And now for number 6, I have P plus 7/10 is greater than negative 2 and 3/10. I'm going to undo the addition by subtracting 7/10 from each side. So I'm going to have P is greater than, and when I subtract negative 2 and 3/10 minus 7/10, I will add the opposite. So I have negative 2 and 3/10 plus negative 7/10, which would be negative 3. Now I'll fill out my number line, so I'll have negative 3. And then to the right, I have negative 2 and negative 1. And then to the left, I would have negative 4 and negative 5. I will have an open circle at negative 3 because my symbol is greater than. And then I need to decide which direction to shade. If I put in a number on the left-hand side, so I could put a negative 4. Negative 4 is greater than negative 3 is not true. So now I'll try a number on the right-hand side. So if I have negative 2, I'd have negative 2 is greater than negative 3, and that is true. So I will shade to the right. Don't forget to fill out your notes, and remember to watch the video again if needed.